fulfill it. I am so grateful your journey of discovery has led you all the way here. Let's keep moving forward together. Once again, welcome to Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in to Life Club with me, Tashima Jones, on tashimajones.com or iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you are tuning in. Hopefully, it's on my app, TJM TV. So, I first am going to apologize for these New York City streets in the background. You might hear a few things going on, so I am apologizing up front, and I'm not going to act like or pretend that you might, hear a dog in the background perhaps. So I had to get that out of the way. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. Super excited about today's topic as always, and you already know I have to lay this foundation, so let's just dig right in. So today's topic is time. I have mentioned this concept of time during our time together, so I'm super excited to actually have this discussion with you. So much of our existence in the five sensory realm is connected, influenced, and some would say controlled by time. You have to wake up at this time. You have to be to class, the office, or a meeting at this time. You even have to wait for a specific time. And the list goes on. Understanding time is vital when it comes to life. I truly believe when we have the proper perspective of time, our journey would be much smoother and last much longer. So once again, we are speaking about time. Now, Life Club's definition of time is a specific moment in which a thing occurs. And in that moment, we are literally experiencing energy that is always moving. We're going to dig a little deeper into that as we progress throughout this installment. Now, in the five sensory realm, we see time as hours, minutes, and seconds. In the spirit world, time is an event. It is a marker. And once again, it is a moment when a specific thing takes place. Truth be told, the transition from a day to night has no time because time is a construct. The only thing a clock does is measure the intervals of space between day and night, which again are moments. While in the five sensory realm, time may be useful to connect with other human beings, but at the same time, it can damage how we view our life's walk. Why? Because we do not control time, aka the appointed moments of a thing occurring. Think about it. Did you choose your birthday? And anytime that I speak about time, I always go back to that moment, April 5th, 1983. I did not choose when I would arrive on this amazingly wonderful planet we call Earth. Neither do I have the power to control the other moments that I experience while here. Okay, so once again, that's the foundation, just understanding time, understanding what it means in the spirit world, aka it is a moment of energy moving, and what it means in the five sensory realm. It's literally a measurement of space between an event beginning and that event progressing. So some of our talking points for today are gestation, cycles, season, and basically everything is already done. So let's dig a little deeper into gestation. Now, gestation is literally the process of being pregnant. In human terms, we call it pregnancy, aka 9 months. When it comes to other creatures on the earth, it's mostly referred to as gestation, a period of time of which a mother carries her child on the inside of her. And the interesting part about this is that each creature has a different gestation process or period, if you will. Some last 180 days, others last longer and shorter periods of time. I'm not even going to act like I know the gestation of the elephant, even though, we can all look it up and figure it out for ourselves or find out that information for ourselves. But the point is that each creature has a period of time where they carry their young. And this is so important and so vital because when it comes to the individual, we each have a specific set of measurements or a specific set of time in which we come into different phases of our lives. And that's why it's so important for us to really be connected to spirit, because just because somebody else was married and had 2 kids, a white picket fence and a dog, by the age of 32 doesn't necessarily mean the same is true for you. And again, this is why it's so important for us to understand 5 sensory self time and then the inner being time, or where time is concerned when it comes to your inner being. You have to realize that time is a moment, and moment is stemmed from this concept of momentum, where you are experiencing energy that is constantly moving and it's just picking up when it's picking up its cells, and eventually you will be from one place to another. So once again, we are speaking about time and understanding that the clock only measures the space between day and night. It does not determine your life. It doesn't determine when you experience certain things in your life. While it is good, and it's a good tool to be used between human beings to stay connected, to stay in alignment with one another, you cannot look at the calendar to determine your life's journey. And even we can take that a step further and recognize that before the clocks were even invented, human beings were on the same wavelength. You know how you might think about somebody and then they randomly call you, or you randomly see them at the market. It is energy. It is this connection that we have as human beings with spirit and between each other. So too often we get caught up in racing this imaginary clock and trying to fulfill certain things in a certain period of time, and not recognizing the process and the inner being and what we have to truly experience and the growth that we have to experience on the inside in order to experience these natural moments that we all look forward to. There is a process of becoming financially successful. There is a process of having a healthy marriage. There is a process of being able to do the things that you were called to do. And that process is not based on a clock that we can see with our natural eyes. It is truly based on this process of maturing and gaining insight and gaining wisdom and gaining an understanding of how life works and how life operates on the inside of you. And that's why I wanted to really focus on this concept of gestation. Every creature has its own process. Every creature has its own journey between point A and point Z. And you really have to tap into that journey for yourself, or that process for yourself. And this is the danger in comparing your life to somebody else's life, especially when it's based on age or based on something that has to do with you being on similar paths with another person. You cannot define your life by the clock. And yes, we have appointments, and yes, we have meetings, and yes, we have to be in certain places at certain air quote times. But the reality of the matter is that you have to find your personal compass, your personal life plan, if you will, and understand and get into the rhythm of that movement, and getting into the rhythm of with spirit, basically aligning yourself with spirit and the plan that is for you specifically. When we think about this concept of perfect timing, you have to understand and acknowledge that it's never based on the time that you see on your watch. When we say, oh my goodness, I made it in perfect timing, it's usually has nothing to do with the fact that it's 12:29 or that it's 10:10 or that it's 9:02. When we say perfect timing, we never look at our watches to see this time, and then from that moment on we call 9:02 perfect timing. We don't do that. So when we recognize that saying of being in the right place at the right time, we have to acknowledge that time is truly a moment. Time is not what we see on a clock when it comes to the hours or the space between sunrise and sunset. So I wanted to dig a little deeper into cycles. Now, cycles are literally these rhythmic activities that we take part in on a regular basis. We wake up in the morning and we sleep at night. We replenish our bodies, we bathe, we plant, we farm, we eat. Cycles are really repetitive actions that sustain our quality of life. It is the foundation, the soundtrack, or the background music for our journey as human beings. And when I think about cycles, I think about birds and how they fly south during a moment of the Earth's rotation. And I'm being intentional about using the term moment versus time, because time in the five sensory realm is referring to measurements of space between day and night. But in a LifeClub land, aka the spirit world, time is really a moment. It is an event, a marker of a thing taken place. So once again, when we speak about cycles, I look to birds and I look to creatures in understanding the repetitive nature of certain activities. So cycles for human beings really refers to the everyday habits that we do that pertain to our quality of life. Now, cycles is a great segue into this concept of seasons. You know, a lot of people say, oh, it's my season, it's my time, or I just know, this thing is going to come through, it's my season. And even when we think about the new year and how people tend to reset their lives and do their best to change certain habits, aka certain cycles that we partake in on a regular basis. When we think about this concept of season, we almost see it as a space of time, when in all reality, season is really this concept of sowing. That's why we season our food. We sow some good old herbs and flavors and spices into the food that we are preparing to cook and eat. So this concept of season doesn't necessarily pertain to what we are producing. It really has so much to do with what we are sowing in this moment of our lives. And when we recognize that truth, we recognize that it's always our season, because it's always a moment to sow something in order to produce it. So we spoke about this process of gestation, where it's pretty much a period of time that a mother carries a child in her womb, and we talked about how that correlates to our individual internal clocks if you will, and how each and every single one of us has different experiences that we go through and the processes that are associated with those experiences. We also spoke about cycles and how cycles are really those rhythmic activities that we take part in on a daily basis. We wake up, we go to sleep, we eat, we bathe, and we do it all over again the next day. And we also talked about this concept of seasons, where seasons, or this concept of season itself, is really the process of sowing a seed, sowing a thing, aka sowing our thoughts in the womb of our minds and giving birth to them through meditation. So our season is not necessarily just this moment in time where something happens as far as us producing or harvesting a thing. It's really this action of sowing a thing, aka you sow and season your food, and the same is true for our thoughts and the things that we want to produce in our lives. And our last point was, it's already done. That's just a saying, not necessarily a point, but it does refer to eternal things and the fact that eternal things do not have times in the sense of the five sensory self. So when we speak about eternal things, we have to recognize that they are already created. Remember, thoughts are things in the spirit world, and everything that we want to produce in the natural earth, in the natural realm, in the five sensory realm, already exist in the spirit world. Remember, thoughts are things, and our inner reality creates the outer form. When you take a thought from the spirit world and you meditate on it, you give birth to that thing. And we have to recognize that when we look at things from an internal perspective or eternal perspective, we will see that everything already exists. It's just a matter of producing that thing in the earth. So a lot of people speak about attraction and manifestation and even walking by faith. And this is so key and so vital in those concepts. We have to understand that the very thing that we think on, the very thing that we meditate on, and more importantly, the things that are designated for us to produce already exists in its spirit body, in its spiritual form. And it's really this process of grabbing hold of that thing in the spirit world, aka the invisible world that we cannot ignore. If you're an avid listener of LifeClub, you already know that we have to accept that there are things that our five sensory self cannot see or hear, but they exist. So once again, when we have an eternal perspective of life itself, it is outside of time because everything already exists. Oh, let's just take a deep breath on that one. It is so important, so vital for us to truly recognize that everything that will be already exists. It just has to make its way into the five sensory realm. I know this might be a little too much for a few people, but I truly believe those who have ears to hear and eyes to see will totally connect with these truths that I am sharing with you. Now, I wanted to transition into some takeaways when it comes to this idea of time. Remember, the LifeClub definition, aka the spirit definition of time, is a marker. It is a moment that an event occurs, and it's that process of the event occurring in and of itself. And in the five sensory realm, time is literally measurements of space between when the sun rises and when the sun sets. It does not determine your quality of life, neither does it determine the moments that certain events happen. That's good. That felt really good. This is why you see certain people experience certain things at certain times or moments in their lives without a natural explanation as to how that thing happened, whether you're a phenomenon and you become famous overnight, or you are healed of a sickness or a disease without any type of process between you taking medication and you receiving that healing. Because eternal things exist outside of time, and when you tap into that reality, you can start to receive the things that you want so much more sooner than you could ever imagine. And we have to allow spirit in and allow spirit to really produce these things and co-create with spirit in order to really experience this life that I speak about. That felt really good. That felt good. Alrighty, so now again, I wanted to transition into how we appropriate or employ time in the five sensory realm, because yes, we are part human, therefore we do have to abide by certain rules and regulations that take place on earth. And the best concept that I could come up with is to imagine time in the five sensory realm, aka the 24 hours that we have in a day, that space between when the sun rises and sets and then rises again. Imagine if you have 24 bars of gold. So you have 24 gold bars, and you have to manage those 24 gold bars. You have to decide what it is that you are going to take in exchange for 1/2, 25% of that gold bar. While in spirit, we do live outside of time, time is still important in regards to the five sensory concept of it. So yes, we live outside of time. At the same time, we cannot waste the time that we have been given, because I truly believe time is a natural resource. It is not made by man. I'm going to say that again. Time is a natural resource and it is not made by man. So what we do with time truly does determine our quality of life. And oftentimes we get so caught up and distracted by the things of this world that we find ourselves wasting time. And I think that is one of the biggest takeaways for this installment of Life Club, is really paying attention to how you use your time. Once again, time is a natural resource. It is not made by man. And when we take hold of that truth, it should motivate us in using our time wisely. So once again, see time as 24 bars, and you get 24 bars every single day. From this moment forward, be mindful of how you spend your time. Thank you so much for rocking with me on another installment of Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you were here with me, and for that I am truly, truly grateful. I am Tashima Jones, and you've been listening to Life Club.